نحمده ونصلي وسلم على رسوله الكريم سيدنا ونبينا وشفينا وحبيبنا وسندنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن مع العسر يسرا. صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وقال النبي صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم الصلاة معراج المؤمن أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Respected ulama kiram, hufadh kiram, brothers, elders and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We awake, pa? Okay, alhamdulillah. We find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Inshirah, this ayah which I have recited in front of you, something that affects each and every single one of us at not one point but many points in our life. And that is difficulty, calamities, hardships, sickness, illness, whether it is financial or marital problems or other kind of problems, socio-economic, whatever it may be, we go through difficulties. But Allah Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal twice in one surah, in Surah Inshirah, gives you and me hope and says to us that inna ma'al usri yusra, with every difficulty you will get ease. فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Twice Allah Ta'ala tells us you will go through difficulty, you will have hardship. Allah Ta'ala has guaranteed it in Surah Baqarah. We know the ayah that وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, that we will definitely test you, whether it's hunger, whether it's loss of family, whether it's loss of wealth, something or the other, some difficulty, some calamity you are going to face. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you will have that. And if we look into the annals of history, we find that the Anbiya alayhim salam were tested probably the most brutally, in the most harshest of ways. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam didn't ever see his father. He saw his mother till a very young age. He lost his mother, his grandfather. He lost his uncle Abu Talib. He lost those that were close to him while he was still very young. Some of us, we have grown up, we still have great-grandparents or grandparents that are still around that we can see, we can visit, we can spend time with. Sometimes it's our lack of love for them that we don't give them enough time that we should. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam chose poverty over wealth. If he wanted, he could have been extremely wealthy, yet he chose to tie 2 stones to his belly just so that he can survive day by day. He went through difficulties and hardships, just like how we find that Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam went through difficulties and hardships. Allah Ta'ala tested them. And your test of Iman is that when you go through difficulty and your faith remains in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When everything is good, when everything is going well, you are on holiday, you are enjoying yourself, or you're with family members, then it's easy to forget Allah Ta'ala. Very easily we forget to perform our salah. Very easily we forget to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say Alhamdulillah, MashaAllah, take a step back and say, you know what, I'm so fortunate that I've come here for holiday, or I'm with my family, I have all my family members that are with me, that are spending time with me, they are giving me their time. So we need to understand, appreciate. It's very, very important that we appreciate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with lots of things. And when difficulty comes our way, if we have remembered to praise Allah Ta'ala in prosperity, Allah will come to us when we are in adversity. Ammatul Huzn, the year of grief for Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. Who did he lose in the year of grief? His wife, Hazrat Khadijatul Kubra radiallahu ta'ala anha. And who else passed away in that same year? His uncle, Hazrat Abu Talib. 2 very close people. Who was his wife? Who was this Hazrat Khadija? Was she just his wife? She was that very woman when he came down from the cave of Hira, and he said, Zammiluni, Dathiruni, cover me. I'm in a state of shock. And he didn't know what to do. He didn't understand who's this angel that had come and spoken to me and told me to read. Anyone here, how many of you have been to cave of Hira? Yeah, I've seen 2 nods. Yeah? When you go, make an effort, inshallah, to go. And you understand today, mashallah, I remember when we went about 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago maybe, some brothers from As-Salam, we went together, we climbed up. Yeah, and I remember there were some brothers that were there, they were putting concrete and they were making like more solid steps. Yeah, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to go, there was no daylight, there was no lights at all. Today there's lights, today you can get to the top and have a cup of tea. You can have something to drink, ice cold drinks right up there on the top. And then what a difficult journey once you go through the cafe that is there, then going through, getting down towards the cave. There's a narrow gap where you can go around that gap to get to the cave itself. It's not easy. And the cave itself, some people have put tiles there. Yeah? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't have all of that. Now imagine that incident takes place. He makes his way home. He's in that difficult condition, and yet she gave him support. That teaches us what? Well, we learn these things are there for lessons for us. That when you have a wife, a spouse that does for you, is supportive of you, of the good that you do, then we need to appreciate that. Sometimes just to say thank you for the nice meal, Jazakallah for cooking a nice meal, yeah, if she's the cook and you're not, yeah, or she did something for you, that makes a big difference. A small word of appreciation goes a very long way. It's just that we fail to realize. Sometimes we think, you know what, I don't need to thank her, man, she's doing my head in half the time anyway. No, it's rather the other way around. Maybe if you show more love and affection, then you won't feel that your wife is nagging you. Sometimes your wife is a nag. Why? Because she's constantly reminding you, read your salah, read some Quran, read some tasbih, go spend some time in the path of Allah, go do some charity work, do some good, do this good, do that good. And sometimes we think, no, well, you know what, she's just troubling me, she's doing my head in, she's nagging me. Meanwhile, she's there as a means of support. So she was a support for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hazrat Abu Talib, he was a support again for Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. So he's going through difficulty. But Allah has promised, you go through difficulty, I will give you ease. I will give you afiyat. Yeah. And we must make dua for afiyah. Not a person by the name of afiyah. One person went to the Mauli Sahib and he said, Maulana, I'm trying to forget this girl. I'm not married to her. Make dua for me. So he said, and tell me what must I do? So the Mauli Sahib said, you need to make lots of dua. So he said, what dua must I make? He said, Allah, give me lots of taqwa. He said, Allah, he said, Ya Maulana, you asking me to make dua for her again? And he said, what do you mean? He said, her name is taqwa. So I can't make dua for taqwa. We have to use a different word there. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam went through this difficulty, and Allah Ta'ala wanted to reward him. For your patience, for your perseverance, for your difficulties. And remember this, guaranteed, that if you go through some difficulty, Allah's got something good in store for you. Guaranteed. You may not have it right now. It may be a week later, maybe a day later. It might be 10 years later. It might be in the hereafter only. But you will get it. Guaranteed for the difficulties. If you read the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we find right till the time if a person gets pricked by a thorn or a pin, even for that you will be rewarded. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, while he says he is in the vicinity of the Ka'batullah, possibly in the Hatim area, which is the semicircle, we know that is right next to the Kaaba, which is part of the original Kaaba. He says an angel appears and he cuts open my chest. How many times did this happen in the life of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Minimum of 2 times. When was the first time? He was in the company and the care of Halima Sa'diyah. Who was Halima Sa'diyah? His nurse. Yes, wet nurse. That she had taken him away while he was a baby. and he was in a field, and that whole story there. So he says similar thing happens now. Now he's a grown-up man, someone comes, cuts open my chest, and he takes out my heart. You try to think to yourself, how can that be possible? Heart specialists are now, doing all these bypasses and heart transplants and everything. This was Allah Ta'ala's farishta. This was an angel from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so nothing difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has created us, so He sent down the specialist surgeon angel, if you want to understand it like that. He takes out my heart, and He has a golden basin, which has faith in there. And He washes my heart in there, soaks it in there, and then puts it back, seals me up again. And then Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam appears, and he brings along with him an animal. He says it's smaller than a horse, but a bit bigger than a donkey. Different kind of animal. Now sometimes you see in media and so forth, people have tried to show that what is this animal with. So they try and show you a horse, very white horse, and it's got wings on it. No wings like that. Allah Ta'ala just gave it ajib, qudrat and power. Now you think about it, you travel on these domestic airlines and they got these tiny little planes, and to cover a certain distance they get there quite quick, but then you compare it to the Concorde that once existed, and how quickly you could travel. And now they are coming out with different modes of different sort of types of planes that a person will be able to travel from here to there in a very short space of time. And this animal that Allah Ta'ala had sent, Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam says, a hadith regarding this miraculous journey is mentioned in Bukhari, Muslim, other hadith. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that each leap that it would take, each step that it would take, would be as far as the eye could see. So you can imagine if you're standing in an open plain, how far you can see. And this moved at very quick speed. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi layla. That purity belongs to that being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal, who took His servant from where to where? Asra bi'abdihi layla min al-masjid al-harami ila al-masjid al-aqsa. From Masjid al-Haram in Makkatul Mukarramah to Masjid al-Aqsa. Today we can go, you get on a plane, I don't know how long it takes from there to there. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, when the Kaaba was switched from Masjid al-Aqsa to Kaabatullah, which masjid it took place in? Just quick quiz. Masjid al-Qiblatain. After this, his heart still felt inclined to perform salah facing towards Masjid al-Aqsa. It is mentioned in some places that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would face the Qibla, direction of the Qibla, but from that side where it would also be Masjid al-Aqsa in that direction. Not with the intention of facing Masjid al-Aqsa. Remember this. Sometimes you do something, you remember where you first met your wife, or the first words that were said, or first things that you did, or the first time your child spoke, what word they said. You're even happier if they said your name, or they said Papa, or something like that. Like this Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam reminiscing on the times that they used to face Masjid al-Aqsa, and he would do this. However, when they moved to Madinah Munawwara, then this was no doubt wasn't possible for them to do. Because the direction of Qibla was one way, and Masjid al-Aqsa was a totally different direction. And if you go to Masjid al-Qiblatain, you will notice that they've got a musalla at the back of the masjid, which shows that was the direction. So from one side, they had to turn completely the opposite direction. Now Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam arrives at Baytul Maqdis in Jerusalem. And when he arrives there, he ties his animal the same place where previous Anbiya alayhimus salatu wasalam used to tie their animals. And from at least one person that I have met, and some others have mentioned also, but one brother I know specifically mentioned with quite a bit of detail that at that place or somewhere around there is a place where you can put your hand and there's a fragrance that comes out from that rock. Some sort of itar. Imagine being able to see a place that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam looked at. Today you go to Kaaba.